So two-step inequalities can be a little bit more challenging because we have to kind of keep in mind that we need to undo adding or subtraction before multiplication and division. And so we kind of see an example of that in number 1. So in order to get rid of this 10, since it's addition and subtraction, we'll add the 10, cause of that to cancel, and we'll add 10 to this side. So we'll get 2x. The inequality goes the exact same way, and negative 2 plus 10 is a positive 8. And now that we've undone the addition or subtraction, we can now divide this 2 off. So we get x is greater than, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. And so that's our answer for number 1. So when we go to graph it, put 4 in the middle. I do 2 values, one greater than 4 and one less than 4. And since my inequality doesn't have the line underneath it, it'll be an open circle. But if it did have that line, it'd be a closed circle, or it'd be shaded in. And since its x is greater than 4, all values greater than 4 will be included. So 5, 6, and everything above that. So it points to the right. If we start to approach problems where we have a lot of variables just mixed in, so like number 9 here, you just kind of want to do the exact same as we've done before, where you want to keep your x's on one side by combining them and your whole numbers on the other. So in order to do that, the first thing we have to do in number 9 is distribute this 2 inwards. So now we'll multiply the x by 2 and that 2 by 2. So 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 2 is 4. I'll bring down our inequality and everything on the right hand side. And now I can start to move my terms, or what's called combining like terms. And so I'll deal with my x's, and I always like to keep my x's on the left hand side. And so I'll move this 3x over there, and so since it's positive, I'll subtract it off, and I'll get 2x minus 3 is a negative x. Then I'll bring down my 4 plus 4, my inequality, and my positive 8. So plus 8 over here. And now the last thing to get all my terms together is to move the 4 over to the right hand side. So it's a positive 4, so I'll subtract it off. And I'll get negative x is greater than or equal to 8 minus 4, which is a positive 4. And it may look like we're done, but we have one last step, and that's to get rid of this negative on this x. We can't just leave it there, and so we can either multiply or divide by a negative 1. So I'll just multiply, or divide by a negative 1. So I'll divide by a negative 1 on both sides, so these cancel, leaving me with a positive x. And so I get positive x. And remember, if we divide or multiply by negative, the sign changes directions. So it's now less than or equal to, and 4 divided by a negative 1 is a negative 4. So putting that on our bar here, we get x is less than or equal to negative 4. So when we go to graph it, we put the negative 4 in the middle, 1 point that's greater than it, so that would be negative 3, and then 1 point that's less than it, so negative 5. It may seem backwards, but since negative 5 is further on the number line, it's more negative, so it's a smaller number. And since we've kept our x on the left hand side, we can still use the direction method, making our inequality look like an arrow, to graph this. So I'll put my circle above the 4, and I see that it has or equal to that little line right there, so that means that I fill it in all the way. And then I see that the arrow is pointing to the left, so I'll match it with my graph, and we're done.